I'm Pixie.
I'm Pyrosim.
And you're listening to the Nerd Talk podcast. If you'd like to help sponsor the show, we are now an Amazon affiliate, so you can click the NT affiliate link at the top of the website. I'll probably also throw in a link in the post itself when this goes up. And click the link, do your shopping through Amazon as per usual, and at no extra cost to you, Nerd Talk will receive a little bit of kickback from that. So that'd be a really great way to support the show while not having to do a whole lot of extra work.
Look at it this way. If you're shopping on Amazon without using an affiliate link, you're leaving money on Jeff Bezos' table. And Jeff Bezos doesn't need that money. We do. Give it to us.
Indeed. So, on to business then. We saw the Lego Movie. I wasn't originally planning on seeing the Lego Movie, but overwhelming internet coverage that's been hyping it up like crazy means that we had to go see the Lego Movie.
It spent a good amount of time with a 99% on Rotten Tomatoes, and even when we saw it, which was a few weeks late, was like at a 97 or a 96.
Which is unheard of. Usually you get like a huge swing in one direction or the other, like when it first comes out, when a given movie first comes out. But that generally will even out as it comes out and more people have had a chance to see and therefore rate it. For it to stay so high for this long is all but unheard of.
So, I have good and bad news about the Lego Movie. The good news is that I can see why people were pretty hype about it. There certainly were some elements of craftsmanship, some good timing, and some good jokes in it.
And the animation, of course.
The animation was pretty awesome. There was a lot of funny stuff in it. The bad is that we're probably going to spend quite a lot of time complaining about a thing that's not really specific to this movie, but did dramatically harm my experience of it. It's a product of the culture it's in, and there's a million other movies that are the exact same way, but Veronica or Pixie will address that more as we get into the spoilers section.
So I feel like, actually, because we tend to go over films with a more critical analysis of the contents therein, and as less of a consumer's guide, I'm just gonna go ahead and say now that over the course of this podcast, we will talk about major characters and plot points over the course of the Lego Movie, and if you have not yet seen it, or would prefer not to be spoiled, you should probably wait to listen to this podcast until after you've done so. So, having put out that disclaimer, I think we can have our spoilery discussion.
Yeah.
First of all, the obvious is that this is a glorified 2-hour toy commercial. And not even in the way that it's called the Lego Movie, of course it is. And you're going to see toys marketed towards that, but rather they specifically mention a bunch of Lego sets by name and show the boxes. And it's really painfully commercial in that way.
As somebody who, was not going to buy Lego sets before or after ever, I like Lego, I appreciate it, but there's not any space in my life to buy physical toys in terms of time or mental space or physical space to store stuff
because we live in a one-bedroom apartment.
But, so, I didn't find the advertising egregious. It didn't really, I knew it was advertising, but it was there was plenty in it for me without getting anything from the advertising. There's almost some value in the evolution way of evolution nominally being a Head & Shoulders commercial, but we'll have... I wonder, did that impact people buying Head & Shoulders? I can't imagine it did.
Top of mind awareness.
I guess.
That's really all those bigger brands do.
Yeah.
Is when when you're making a decision, you're gonna pull up top of mind awareness from advertising. What names do you know? If the bartender is going to ask what you want to drink, you're going to probably say Stoli or some other higher end vodka that has more brand recognition by virtue of pumping more money into advertising than you are to mention something more affordable, for example. So in my media studies in college, we ran into this a lot where one example my professor liked to use a lot was McDonald's. Basically, every eating decision, McDonald's wants you to think of them. Breakfast, McDonald's. Lunch, McDonald's. Snacks, McDonald's. Dinner, McDonald's. I'm really high late at night, McDonald's.
The final category does seem like the optimal McDonald's category.
I would say Taco Bell owns that category, but...
Yeah.
Now that a bunch of McDonald's are 24 hours, there's that. But anyhow...
I don't smoke weed, but there's a good chance that if it was like 1 a.m. and we were going out for fast food, I would use the term fourth meal.
So, that's kind of the point, is you're making a toy buying decision? Oh boy, you've just had a bunch of those Lego sets rattling around in your brain recently. Whereas one much more subtle branding move that the Lego movie did was there's a mechanic where some of the characters are master builders, where they can just look around their environment and be able to identify parts and kind of think on the fly how to engineer those parts into something that they need in that moment. And they go into like some weird kind of like Batman Arkham Origins style detective mode when they like look at different objects in the environment, and you see numbers, and it took me till most of the movie to realize those numbers were actual part numbers for those Lego pieces specifically.
The overlay struck me as kind of Terminator-y, yeah, but yeah. It's a cool effect. They've got the part numbers that, I guess, the part numbers might actually address a concern that I had with the narrative of the movie, which is like, the bad guy is like, you can only build things according to the instructions, everything has to be orderly, no chaos. And the heroic movement is creativity outside of the instructions.
Where you can just slap a bunch of different colors together and make things that don't really make a whole lot of practical sense just for the sake of making them. And whereas the villain's side is basically all of the medieval stuff goes in the medieval set, and all of the city stuff goes in the city set, and ne'er the twain shall meet.
Right. And I was complaining to Pixie during the movie that my experience with Lego had been... in the early 90s, it was possible to go buy a bucket of random parts. You get some flat ones and some square ones and some rectangle ones, and there's a bucket of them, and there you go. Whereas that had been dramatically less prominent as I was growing up, versus when I was very young.
Now, see, the thing of that is those sets make more money because you can pull people based on interests. You can pull the people who are into Harry Potter into buying Harry Potter Legos, and you can pull the people, like, there's a bunch of different market shares you can reach that way. You can pull people who collect everything that is Harry Potter, people who are into Harry Potter but wouldn't otherwise buy Legos, people who just want generic Harry Potter themed toys and went, hey, this also has the Harry Potter label on it. There's a bunch of different groups, and some of those groups might overlap, but that might not otherwise buy just a generic bucket full of random Legos, because they want to have a more, say, narrative-based experience. This is actually a huge thing in how Lego is marketed to girls, or has been previously. Less so now that they've done the weird Lego Friends spin-off stuff, but it was the toy market research has found that girls tend to want a more narrative, character-driven experience in their play. And so a lot of that appeal comes from having those specific themed sets. Basically what I'm saying is the girls are way into the Harry Potter Lego sets from what I've observed.
I guess, in terms of it potentially being a gift item, it might have an effect in the vein of the gift card, wherein gift cards drive me bananas because they are strictly worse than cash. Because a gift card does exactly the things that cash does, except there's things that cash does that a gift card does not. There's no added value except nominally the fact that I put the least amount of thought into who this was for in restricting the ability of this money to purchase stuff.
It's the understanding that I know what you like, but not the specifics of it.
Right. So the fact that the sets are segmented like that makes them better gifts, potentially, insofar as I have invested more thought by attaching a franchise to this.
That counts.
Apparently. It's a different kind of thought than I interpreted that phrase to mean, but it is thought.
No, I mean, because I can be like, okay, I know Pyrosim is into, like, techie stuff, but maybe I don't know what specific gadget you have your eye on. So I can just buy you, say, a Newegg gift certificate or whatever for a place that sells techie sort of things without having the danger of buying you something you already have, don't need, already have a later version of. Perhaps you need an accessory to some component that I don't understand.
Right.
In a hypothetical situation. Whereas Cash says, I have no idea what to get you. Get it yourself.
To my mind, some of the value in a gift, or the thought that counts, is the thought is that I am giving you a gift to make your life better, and the purpose of it is for it to benefit you less than to strut my tail feathers. But I guess the fact that I'm waving around that I'm paying attention to you has some value.
To people who aren't you, that's the interpretation of the point of a thoughtful gift is, the thoughtful part. A lot of people take offense to not feeling understood, so...
For sure.
Communicating, yes, I understand you and what you are about is a core component. How did we get on this weird tangent? We were talking about a movie.
To pull this back in, I was concerned that freeform Lego sets were not generally available anymore, but the mention of part numbers reminds me that they have online set builders, which potentially restores that creativity if you go get a list of part numbers and put them together and order that.
You can buy them by specific parts, but also let's not discount the value in, hitting up a garage sale or Craigslist or something for people who are selling for dirt cheap or giving away huge piles of Legos that they no longer need, since their children may have outgrown them or whatever, or left them behind.
Certainly. The one place I still did manage to see buckets of loose Legos was at the Lego-branded Lego store in Chicago. That was fairly, 4 or 5 years ago. They do exist if you're in a grade AAA world city, but the internet fixes that.
Yep.
So, another concern that I want to break to, another amusing concern about the movie before we get into the kind of brutal part about it, is that, the outside of the Lego world, there's the metaverse where it's humans playing with toys, and then there's the subverse where it is Emmett and Wildstyle being characters with agency. The metaverse consists of the dad is trying to build these sets according to their instructions.
And it's his stuff.
Right. And he's gluing them all together, and he has this hobby, and his kid is like, fuck your hobby, you can't enjoy your toys the way you want to.
Because you had a kid, and children ruin your life.
And the dad says, this is literally a thing the dad says, is, you have your blocks over there, you could build anything you want with them. And the kid kind of just says, no. So, the dad somehow is brought around to the kid's perspective over the course of the movie.
Which is, fuck you, I won't do what you tell me.
In an unclear way. Somehow the dad in the metaverse is being emotionally influenced by events in the subverse that are not apparently being communicated in the metaverse. But, I feel like the dad's way of enjoying Legos is a valid way to enjoy Legos.
Yeah, they're trying to emotionally manipulate the audience into agreeing with the kid's line of reasoning, which, I reiterate, is simply, fuck you for enjoying things the way you want.
Yeah, stop having fun, guys.
The movie tries to emotionally manipulate the audience by being like, see, the toys are sentient in a Toy Story kind of way, which basically kind of echoes Toy Story 2. Which is that you've got this collector who's, got his hobby, collecting toys, whatever, and he just puts them in a box and displays them, which is perfectly valid as opposed to, the true fans and the rightful owners who want to play with them or whatever. I don't know. It seems kind of hostile to me.
Yeah. It's a little bit different than Toy Story insofar as...
fuck you adults who enjoy things.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It seems hostile. And, it did really play the right way for me, but the gap between this and Toy Story is that the subverse in Toy Story is that all of the toys kind of get along, whereas in the Lego movie, it's actual, pretty serious conflict that's happening in the subverse, and these people are experiencing, fear and pain, and so, I don't know, somehow the metaverse is this torture chamber for these sentient toys. Just, we'll plunge them into perpetual conflict for our amusement.
Yeah, I don't even know where to start with that. I will say that there was one other instance I'm now thinking of in favor of using Legos along the lines of following the instructions. And that is, it is a Christmas tradition at Snake's house where he and his older brother, for years now, have been, their mom has purchased like a little mini kit, and the idea is they sit together on Christmas Day, and once all the like major events like the present opening and food and stuff has happened, the family gathers around, the two of them have the box with their identical mini kits in front of them, and they race to see who can complete it first, as it is according to the instructions. And so that's been a long-standing tradition for them that they enjoy a lot.
Turns out that you don't need Craggle to ensure that when you put those flat pieces together, they don't come apart. That happens naturally.
It's basically, that was a running gag that last year in that, this is a move that cannot be undone.
If you make a mistake at this part, you lose the race.
Because those pieces do not come apart, because there's nothing to grab onto to remove them. So yeah, I would like to, propose that also, as this is a perfectly valid way to enjoy using these toys. And the kid will probably get his own box, like, who knows, by next year or something. But probably of something more along the lines of Duplo, so that, there's less hazard involved.
It's very hard to choke on Duplo. I know, kids are pretty dumb. They can probably find a way, but they'll have to try.
I have often heard of babysitting described as, like, trying to ensure the survival of suicidal drunk midgets, so... But I'll probably cut that part out.
My mom tells the story of, when we were out on a vacation at a cabin on a lake, her looking out towards the lake and seeing me, like 3 feet underwater, having marched directly into the lake and not floated or swam at all. Just walk right out. Just like pirates, like the zombie pirates in Pirates of the Caribbean.
Just walking along the bottom of the lake.
Just looking at her through the surface of the lake as I am underwater. And she's like, oh. And then she just dives into the ice cold lake and rips me out of there. Like, oh. Turns out kids are stupid and you can't take your eye off them for 2 seconds.
At all. They really are, though. Anyhow, this movie has some other problematic elements that need addressing. Like the Wild Style character, which, good on them for having a prominent female character who does stuff and is competent at that. But she seems to have no actual agency when it comes to interpersonal relationships. When we're introduced to her, she has a supposedly serious relationship with the Batman Lego.
So, there's 2 things I know about life. One of which is that if somebody asks you if you're a god, you say yes. And the other one is if you're dating Batman, continue dating Batman.
But, as happens in lots of other popular movies and forms of culture, it seems like hot women exist as a reward for the hero for completing his task. In that she just kind of drops Batman, and of course we have to show Batman being, less than perfect partner because, of course, he has to be because he's not the protagonist.
Like, nominally, that scene did not even serve the purpose of Batman being a less than perfect partner, because apparently he was just scamming them for their hyperdrive. Like, hey, let me onto your ship, based on this premise that would cause you to let me onto your ship. And then, 30 seconds later, he's back with the hyperdrive, and it kinda seemed like there was never any, impropriety at all. Batman was just running his long game.
Know her true name or whatever, which, can we get off this handle about real names?
I'm so glad you pushed that.
But your parents weren't wizards who saw into the ether and pulled out your one true name.
It's not a power word.
Forever.
Speaking of which compels obedience.
Where this is driving me insane, where if I tell you to call me a thing, it would behoove you to call me that thing that I've chosen for myself.
In general, if
I wanted you to call me Knight Rider, you would do it because you're my friend and you would generally just do things because I asked them.
in good faith relationships, it's probably decent to call somebody the name that they would like you to call them.
I mean, that's like the people who insist on, like, trying to bestow upon you a nickname that you didn't want or something.
Have you ever read,
You know what you think of those people? That they're assholes!
It's the fat kid in the book about the kids being dicks to each other on the island.
Flies, and
yes.
I don't actually remember the fat kid's name, except that he was the fat one.
And that he didn't like that they gave him this nickname, and then his actual name is never revealed.
Hang on.
I think it starts with a C.
Of the flies. I'm gonna look up a summary here. This will all get cut out so it looks like we're super smart and on it. Hey, Spark Notes.
As I don't know much about literature, but I think the moral of that part of that story was, this is a way to be a dick. Give somebody a nickname they don't like, and then stick with it.
Despite their insistence that you not.
That's just how to be an asshole, the manual.
You know, it's a huge point of contention where a lot of trans people end up getting misidentified and misgendered. Speaking from my own cis privilege, I've observed that this is a point of contention that people more qualified to speak on the subject by being actual trans people have said that this is a power tactic used to deny them their identity.
People, or the media, is quite happy to call Lady Gaga, but they're
the fact that her name
unwilling
is
to...
Stephanie, like, legally, but...
They're categorically unwilling to call Chelsea Manning.
Mm-hmm.
Like Lady Gaga from Stephanie, that's fine. Chelsea Manning, no. For some reason that's a gap that they're refused to engage with.
They've nicknamed him Piggy, which I knew it was something about, being fat.
Yes.
So that's stuff with it. I knew it was some derogatory fat joke, but I read Lord of the Flies in, like, high school, so it's a long time ago.
The theme of that story was that these kids are dicks, and that was one example of dickishness, so...
I prefer the term asshole. It's a little more inclusive.
Yeah, that's true.
We don't need to, use anybody's anatomy as a slur.
Kids were hair strands.
I might ask you to explain that one to me, but...
There is no pre-existing pejorative connotation with hair strands. I was merely synthesizing one.
I wasn't sure if you spent more time reading Urban Dictionary than I have, and maybe you had some privileged information I did not.
What a bunch of fucking elbows.
Because most people have those.
Yes.
Anywho, so, this movie. I have a lot of problems with the Wildstyle character. So, the fact that she wanted to be called Wildstyle, there was a part where Morgan Freeman's character as the, like, wizardly type dude makes fun of her early on in the movie for having changed her name a few times while basically still trying to find her identity, which is what young people do. There's, the bit where, this is some, like, great reveal that, her name's really Lucy, and the fact that Batman doesn't know her true name is, like, sign that they're not actually, like, all that close or meant to be together, given the fact that he had just called her by the name she had expressed a preference for being called.
Yep.
So, you'll notice a lot of friend-zone believing not very nice people will perpetuate this narrative that women only date jerks, and, that guy clearly can't understand her as well as I do, and I'm seeing that in this movie, in that, of course, Batman has to be bad for Wildstyle, because we have to show that Emmett is so much better for her, and therefore reward her to him through the plot, but at the end of his heroic arc.
It was a real painful, arc, too, because, like...
I'm sitting here going...
30 minutes into the movie, I turned to Pixie...
And I'm like, I know this is going to happen, and I'm going to be mad about it when it does.
And it was just like watching the train wreck in slow motion.
I'm like, I know this is going to happen. You watch, you mark my words, it will happen, and I will be mad about it when it does. I was right, is the short version. So, yeah, I'm a bit sore about that, because as Jasmine, tries to assert in Aladdin, despite, not actually turning out to be true for her, I am not a prize to be won.
And yet, victory was had.
Yup. And so, they try to make it look like the character has agency and choice in this, but we all know, and the character is and the protagonist is basically owed the attractive woman, because the same way that you were owed a paycheck at the end of your pay period. And we would recognize, the audience would recognize something is wrong if that doesn't happen. I want it so badly for them to subvert the trope and have them be like, that these two have their, Batman and Wildstyle totally have their spats sometimes, but they're actually a pretty solid partnership, and screw you, everything's gonna be fine with them by the end of the movie.
The dopey Batman character was actually a pretty funny character.
I'm also really disappointed that Wonder Woman was only there for basically a cameo and
essentially
to be captured.
Nothing.
Yeah. So she ends up damsel in distress, pretty early on. She shows up, she's captured, she's released, nothing is ever made of it.
The to the Batwing, to the invisible jet joke was pretty funny. I did laugh at that.
Although it functionally made her useless.
Yes, it did. It did make her completely useless, and she wasn't used as a character for anything other than being captured.
Now that you mention it, I have a problem with this scene, because Green Lantern was there, and he could have just gone, I'm gonna make a plane with my ring, and then everything's gonna be fine.
You would think.
You can't shoot a holographic projection. You just formed it from his thoughts, from his will, as needed, and then everything would have been fine.
Uh-huh.
So, I guess by you can't shoot a holographic projection, what I mean to say is that you can't destroy what hasn't been created yet.
Uh-huh.
So, the fact that the Batwing and the Invisible Jet were both parked there for the enemies to shoot at them and blow them up and make them not available as options anymore means that the Green Lantern idea could have totally worked in that sense. So yeah, there's some problems. So how many characters were female in this movie? Because there's Wildstyle, and then Wonder Woman gets a cameo, and then, Unikitty might count, maybe, but so...
There's the non-appearing young female child.
But she was in, literally 20 seconds
right,
of
and
audio.
not on screen at all.
I feel like we could have done with just arbitrarily making some, I don't want to say arbitrarily because that makes it sound like it's not legitimate, but I feel like this story could have been perfectly legitimate without just having, one token woman character.
Right.
The person playing Will Ferrell's son.
Yeah.
Could have been a daughter.
Will Ferrell being Will Ferrell
effect.
Probably mattered, but the child being the child, it could have been anyone.
Because, let's think about that. It's a prepubescent child. The gender doesn't have any affectation on it. So, it's also mildly annoying, I guess. I don't know, annoying makes it sound more at top of mind than it was, but just a thing worth mentioning.
I was disappointed when they went to the metaverse and revealed that character. I was like, oh, well, that's a missed opportunity.
Yeah, and that's what it is, really, is a missed opportunity to do something better than they did. Though I could have gone without bequeathing Wildstyle, some kind of prize, Garden State style.
Yeah, the
That's really the most egregious problem, I would say.
That kind of took away from the whole movie in a pretty big way for me.
Yeah. Whereas Wildstyle could have been this functionally great character. Maybe she and Emmett have a strong friendship, but I'm really made uncomfortable by the idea of bequeathing her to him in that way.
It's
and don't say, oh no, she definitely chose to be with him at the end and everything. And even Batman is in on this by giving his blessing in some weird perverse way, which he doesn't own her, what the hell. But the problem with making that argument is this is a work of fiction. Somebody wrote these characters to be that way. They're just puppets for what the writers meant them to do, and the writers could have made them do literally anything. You can't argue for realism and choice in that way, because they're characters.
They're an expression of authorial intent.
Mm-hmm. These aren't actual people we're talking about.
Jokes that were hilarious.
Don't feel like there's any value to be had from that.
Okay.
Us reciting the joke will not be as funny as it's appearing in context.
Okay.
There were some great moments. I will say that. Parts of it were sincerely funny. The mispronunciation of household objects by the in-universe Lego characters, they might have hammed that up a bit too much. But, it was funny the first couple times. I don't know. So, as far as criticism goes, it was a good movie. I don't feel like it was a great, oh my god, best thing ever, awesome movie the way that it was hyped up to be. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
It was workmanly. It was well crafted.
The animation's great. And a lot of it did remind me of what I found so great about the cinematics in the Lego video games. Although, now that I'm thinking about it, this probably means that there's going to be a Lego video game based on the movie with animation techniques that might have been based on the previous Lego games, and this is giving me a headache. Anywho, so, that wraps that up?
Yep.
Whew. So, you been playing anything lately?
I've actually been playing a couple of incremental games, they're called. So, this is a series of games. They're basically mostly browser games, starting with Candy Box was one of the earliest ones in the genre. They're like Progress Quest, but with slightly more interactivity. The unifying factor between all these games is that there tends to be a number that goes up, and waiting causes it to continue to go up, and that number is a resource. So you can progress in the game by waiting. So for Candy Box, the resource was candies. And it starts out super innocuous. You go to the screen, and there's a number that says you have X candies. You have 1, and then you wait a second, you have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and there's nothing else on the screen when you start. But as you get more, there's things you can do with them, and it opens up a whole world. And then the other part of that mechanic is that you can spend your resource in order to generate that resource faster. So you wind up building a candy farm, spending your candies to generate more candies. It's like the most degenerate form of a game that could exist. Like, it's very nearly the null game.
Cookie Clicker is this?
Cookie Clicker is absolutely an incremental game. Cookie Clicker was created by somebody who was playing Candy Box and was inspired by the mechanic to make another game in that genre. Now, there's a subreddit for it, r_incremental_games. And there's a couple of interesting variations on the theme. Cookie Clicker is a good one. A Dark Room is an incremental game that it's incremental game for like the first hour and a half, and then there's like a totally different non-incremental game that you get to after a certain point in the incremental game. And you're walking around on a map and fighting monsters and stuff, and it's totally divorced from your accumulating resources. But you can play them in a browser. You can stop paying attention to them if something happens that needs your attention. So they make pretty good time wasters in that fashion. I've been enjoying some of them quite a bit. Probably the ones to start with if you're interested in the genre are A Dark Room or Candy Box 2, the sequel to the original Candy Box.
Candy Box harder?
Yes. So, that's mostly what I've been playing. Have you been playing anything, Pixie?
I've still been working on... I don't even know that I've talked about that I was playing Batman Arkham Origins.
I don't believe so.
So, I finished the main storyline for that, and thankfully haven't run into the game-breaking bugs that halt all progression yet. So I've kind of walked back on playing a lot of collecting the collectibles and unlockables and stuff like that for fear of running into one of those, because working on patches to fix them is being put on the back burner for now because the studio is contractually obligated to be working on DLC first.
Who developed that? Because that's not a Rocksteady first-party joint. Origins isn't. I don't believe.
I need to look that up real quick.
Asylum and City were made by Rocksteady, and then they farmed Origins out Obsidian KOTOR 2 style, which is to say, sleazily and shoddily.
Which is to say that it ended up broken in lots of places, and unfinishable in others. Warner Brothers...
Developed by Warner Brothers Montreal.
And then released by Warner Brothers Interactive Entertainment.
So, I believe Warner Brothers owns Rocksteady? If not, they definitely published the other two games at least.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, this is a different actual developer than Rocksteady.
So, yeah, this contractual obligation to crank out the DLC first has a lot of people obviously up in arms. But nothing can be done. Kind of in a bind.
Yep.
So, at the moment, I've been doing things that aren't particularly sensitive to completion, things like, getting trophies in the different training modes, things like that. And I think I'll probably shelve it in favor of another game until the patches roll out for it. I might buy and play Bioshock Infinite Burial at Sea instead for a bit, or something.
How are you liking what you've played so far?
Of which?
Batman Arkham Origins.
Was okay. I mean, it feels like a lot of the other Batman games.
This is
Needs more Catwoman.
Obviously needs more Catwoman. I assume there's none at all?
No, because this is a prequel.
Alright.
And, there's some pretty obvious plot holes, like the Metroid problem of how did Batman lose access to all of these incredibly handy gadgets, because in no fewer than 3 times he uses these shot gloves that he picks up off of the electrocutioner to restart someone's heart for convenient plot purposes, because Batman can't kill anybody.
Which is why there's invisible walls around every rooftop stopping thugs from falling off.
Batman can't even accidentally kill somebody.
Even if he tries.
There are some animations where it looks suspiciously like he's breaking someone's neck.
Batman can, make someone quadriplegic and, never going to do anything with their life again, but, not quite kill.
Just make life very, very difficult.
You're gonna eat through a straw, but...
So, yeah, that happened. So, yeah, there's some fairly large plot holes, but if you wanna, fly around the city being Batman, I would say it was decent enough for that, but honestly, a lot of the gadgets are actually really cool. But because of the game-breaking bugs, I kind of hesitate to recommend people pick up and play it. Honestly, go back to one of the other games like Arkham City, where you've got that same big cityscape environment and the, running around being Batman stuff, plus some Catwoman. I feel like that might be a better source of your time. In fact, I might just go back to it and finish the whole thing out. Another thing I haven't touched in a while, but I suspect I will be playing a lot of in the coming weeks, is I have a job out of state I'm going to go to for a couple weeks, and I'm basically planning on taking my DS, and I don't know what else. Maybe my Xbox. Not really sure. So I was thinking of taking my DS and playing Animal Crossing like I haven't for some substantial amount of time.
You think you have bedhead?
I am certain I have bedhead. However, because I have the beautiful town, I'm fairly certain I don't have cockroaches in my house, so there's that.
Yeah, and you have your own shampoodle, unlike me, so bedhead's not that bad.
Your DS is in pieces in the closet, though, as I recall.
That's correct. Not irrecoverably so, though.
Oh, seeing as our K-swap project ended up as a total failure, but...
Sometimes ribbon cables end up with small tears in them. They're, flimsy.
Yeah. Oh, well. Nothing to be done about it now. So, any idea? Let's see. I know Snake's gonna be over this weekend.
Did you decide that? Is that actually for certain now?
He says he wants to come down.
Cool.
So.
Yesterday we were not sure what was happening this weekend.
I wasn't, so. Maybe we'll record something then. Though that'd have to be a hella turnaround time on this. Editing this will basically be my whole day tomorrow, I think. But that's fine. Any idea what we might talk about on the next show?
Nope.
We'll just have to wing that one.
Batwing it. You know what they say. Always be yourself. Unless you can be Batman. In which case, be Batman.
So I think that about wraps it up for this podcast. If you like what you've heard on the show, you can support us by heading over to nerdtalkshow.com and clicking the NT affiliate link at the top of the page. You can use that to do your Amazon shopping as usual, and we will receive a percentage of the proceeds from whatever you purchase through that link. It's a nice way to help us out while not having to do any extra effort on your part. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I am at Nerd Talk Pixie, NERDTALKPIXIE. Pyrosim is
at Jenna Magius, GENNAMAGIUS.
If you want to follow us on the internet, but not in the creepy way. You can also like us on Facebook at facebook.com/nerdtalk. In the meantime, I'm Pixie.
I'm Pyrosim.
And you've been listening to the Nerd Talk Podcast.